Hey Rene, welcome back to Real Vision. It's great to chat with you. I'm excited to, as a follow-up with my interview with Ash, be able to chat with other people in the space about what they're doing and how things are going. I know you were on Real Vision before with Sebastian, kind of giving an overview of what you guys are doing at C Labs and what you're doing with Celo. Maybe can you give maybe a bit of an update on what you guys are doing with Celo, maybe for the audience, if they haven't seen the previous video, a brief overview of what Celo is doing, and then they can refer back to the other video around some of the details around why you guys decided to fork Ethereum and how you're thinking about some of the adoption. I'd like to dive into a little bit of that later, but take it away.
Yeah, no, thanks so much, Eric. Yeah, it's exciting to be back, and yeah, so much has happened since that last interview. So yeah, it'll be great to kind of catch everyone up on some of the things we've been seeing. Maybe, yeah, as a sort of just super quick refresher on Celo. So Celo is a proof of stake layer one, kind of blockchain infrastructure. Started as a fork of Ethereum, so has full EVM compatibility. The key differentiator, I would say, that particularly from a developer and sort of use case perspective, is that Celo has a unique ultra-light-line technology, which basically means that if you have just a smartphone and limited bandwidth, you're still able to sync with the chain and actually trustlessly access the network. And that's a really big deal because most people around the world are just on a phone and don't have access to a computer necessarily, and that's how they access the internet. And so if we really want to make the benefits of crypto and digital assets, and now everyone is talking about NFTs, right, accessible to a much bigger audience and bring people kind of along for this exciting into this exciting new world, then this is really kind of a key feature, and so that's kind of something the team has worked over the last few years towards achieving that.
You guys have been really mobile first and mobile focused, I think, which has been kind of a differentiator in the space. And one of the things that attracted us, I'm going to pump your tires a little bit, maybe, because I've probably read over 200 different white papers. At one point with our payments platform, we had over 200 different cryptocurrencies. And part of that was for us to figure out, get more familiar with a bunch of the different ledgers and technologies, as well as see what missions are people focused on, what's actually getting used, what are the differentiators between these technologies as well. And I think one of the things that kind of attracted us, we integrated CUSD, the stablecoin on Celo fairly recently, I think earlier this year. And I've already started to see some usage there, which has been great. Actually, quite surprising to us. We weren't expecting to see a ton of usage. So I think it's great to start to see that. But one of the big things for us was seeing, how focused I think you guys were on, very mission alignment. Like I think a lot of people who came into the crypto space are, let's democratize financial access. But I think there haven't been a lot of companies or groups that are starting to kind of live up to that, so to speak. And that's something that I've been quite impressed with. And I think that it even starts from the starting point of you guys being mobile first, because as you mentioned, you're already thinking about, where does most of the world transact today, or where are they going to transact? And it's not going to be on a desktop computer.
Yeah, and look, I think this is also a lot less around, I think sometimes with sort of new protocols or new tokens, right? It's like, as someone maybe who holds just Bitcoin and ETH, and if you're like, well, why do I care about this extra thing or this new thing, right? And with Celo, really, I think, we from the beginning, we've kind of imagined a world in which you have interoperability between multiple different protocols and really sort of more that future kind of state, people kind of seamlessly go between platforms and assets and even some of the applications, right? And we're starting to see that now really happening with compound chain or, Bitcoin on Ethereum. And so I think what's interesting here is from a Celo perspective, we really see Celo as sort of an entry point, right? If you want to access this kind of new exciting world, or maybe you just want a loan, right? And it's actually like your livelihood depends on it, then really Celo is your best bet, right? Because it does provide this access point on just a mobile phone. And so even if you're, even if you only think that Bitcoin is the only thing that matters in the space and you're sort of a Bitcoin maximalist, then even then you should care about Celo, right? Because it actually, with sort of a bridge to Bitcoin that the Keep team is building trustlessly and, wrapped kind of Bitcoin on Celo launching as well. For someone to trustlessly on a mobile phone hold Bitcoin, Celo infrastructure will be the way to kind of achieve that. And that brings Bitcoin to truly the 6 billion smartphone subscribers. And so,
do you see Celo a little bit more like a bridge to Bitcoin, or do you see it as like kind of a side chain to some of these other, because obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum, like one of the challenges that we've had is that, people transact with Bitcoin and Ethereum. So to say that they don't is just wrong. I mean, we have lots of data to prove that they do it, and that it's been growing actually. But to me, even it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like it's just so, unless you're dealing with large transaction volumes or in a speculative nature, it just, right now the cost to transact is just so high. And I think that's where, Celo and some of the other networks are really innovating on trying to provide that. But do you see Celo acting kind of like as a bridge where you have wrapped Bitcoin or wrapped Ethereum, kind of like what we're seeing on Ethereum, but more scalable? Or is it just a bridge, kind of like what people were hoping Libra might be at some point, which is like, this entry point or gateway to more programmable money that people could easily convert to Bitcoin, or a bit of both?
Yeah, it's a good question. Probably a bit of both. But I think the key, what you bring up is really interesting. I mean, I remember, sort of in a past life, I was working for GoDaddy, who had bought our last company. And back in 2013, I went to the CEO and I said, hey, we should let our customers pay with Bitcoin. And I was excited by that idea. And, of course, that's like, the famous pizza example and so on. And, to this day, like, as you're pointing out, right, people do use Bitcoin for paying for things, right? And, now I guess you can even buy a Tesla car with Bitcoin, right? Does it make sense? And shouldn't you use like a stablecoin instead? Maybe, but I think a lot of this comes down to usability, right? And convenience, right? And so I think, we're still early days for actually, giving people easier ways to transact and just interact with these digital assets, right? And we're starting some of those barriers kind of break away. One thing, for example, we did as we were kind of laying out the initial design for the Celo blockchain was to say, the concept that you would need to pay kind of gas and fees in a different currency than the one you're transacting in, will probably seem odd to people, that have no context for this, and that just, are.
It's a huge friction point. It's a
massive friction point, right? Yeah. I mean, and so, we actually learned this in a pilot. We were in Argentina and we were testing sort of an early Celo wallet, and people were just thrown off. Like, why would I need this other token to send this? I mean, it didn't make sense.
We had the same thing, man. We had the same thing. It's so funny because, we had the exact same problem, even in terms of testing out smart contract escrow, some of the pain points that we had when talking with institutions or with businesses, particularly in the cross-border, settlement, buying and selling, is that the people couldn't quite wrap their head around, like, well, I want to pay in dollars, but I have to acquire this Ethereum and then I have to lock that up, but then I have volatility risk. There's all those sorts of challenges. And I think now our perspective is like, this is when this timing over the next 18 months is really when the rubber meets the road, because now we've got fast, programmable, lower cost networks and stablecoin liquidity. Like, those two things married together are really important, because that's what really can unlock I would say beyond kind of prototype phase, like real world use cases of smart contracts and payments and things like that that provide real efficiency gains.
Hey, if you like this clip, be sure to like and subscribe for more crypto related content. Also, be sure to check out the full interview and more only on realvision.com/crypto.